UFC heads to China this weekend. The main event is Johnny Walker versus Zhang Mingyang. This is a really solid card. We're going to get into the road to the UFC. These, fighters from these Asian markets. And obviously, with Zhang Mingyang, the star potential he has. Spoiler alert. But we start off with Dair Nurgozaya versus Salpodiev. Um, Nurgozaya got KO'd by Branson Ribeiro, or not KO'd, submitted by Branson Ribeiro with a Kimura in his first official UFC fight. He got a head kick knockout on the Contender Series over Bartars, however you say that last name. By the way, I'm not going to be able to pronounce basically 60% of the fighters on this card. So, we're going to have some fun butchering names. But he was on a decent run. He fought in UAE World Warriors, Eagle FC. Now, Sharpadiev, he lost his debut to Martin Badai. But before that, was on a decent run himself. Got a Kimura at LFA 203. Um, got a TKO over Bruno Assis to win the belt at LFA. Looking at this fight, it's tricky. I'm not gonna act like I have the most technical breakdown of this fight. I lean towards around Celtic or Sophie. I lean towards Iran mainly because he's been in the UFC cage. Um, I see this being an ugly fight, very back and forth. I see the grappling getting ugly, probably a lot of stalling in this fight. But ultimately, I see uh, Iran being able to outpace him. And even if he gets worked on the feet, I'm more confident in his grappling ability. So I'm going to go with him to get it done by decision. Then we move on to Jiaowang versus Su Young Yu. Now, this is a really fun fight. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, if I'm being honest. Zhao Long obviously KO'd Huang Wei in his last fight. A really good win to have. Huang Wei does have some impressive performances within the UFC. He beat Chang Ho Lee by split decision. And then on the road to the UFC, had two decision wins, one unanimous decision. Now, Su Young Yu also coming from the road to UFC. This guy is really fun. We know that he has his jiu-jitsu, right? And basically, what that means is I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want in the cage. And I like that. This guy is very talented. I mean, the slogan I feel works. And ultimately, I see him beating, I'm already blanking on the name, Xiao Wang. He's very crafty, a very fun style, and I think he's really marketable, especially, in the Asian market. I feel like this guy can become, a fan favorite for many people. The one thing I want to see from him, though, do you have finishing ability, which he hasn't really shown at the UFC level quite yet. Um, but I really like him. I really like his style. I like the gimmick, and I see good things coming from within the UFC. Then we move on to Yiza versus Weston Wilson. Yiza just lost to Gabriel Santos. and or Gabriel Santos in his well first fight back in the UFC after going on the road to UFC, getting an armbar, getting two first round armbars and a unanimous decision win over Sang Won Kim. He lost to Zhang Yang Li by split decision, but that's not a bad loss to have. It was a decent fight. Wilson, on the other hand, he submitted Jekka Saragi with a triangle armbar in his last fight back in June. Another one, dude. Dude, I've gotten the same exact KO score message 5 times in a row. I had to go off every single time that I originally tried to record this video. If you look outside right now, it is the sunniest fucking day you could possibly have. Why am I getting hail alerts? But whatever. Um, Back to this fight. Although Weston Wilson is losing the good competition, he has a lot of first round finishers. Again, it's different at the UFC level. And I just feel looking at what Yiza has done against his competition and Wilson being ran through by Jean Silva, who could potentially be fighting for the belt at the beginning of next year. Johanderson Brito. I still need to see more out of Brito. I'm honestly don't really have a made up opinion. Dude, I get it! I get it! There's a random hailstorm in Canada. Why do you keep sending me alerts? Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. Dude, do I have a napkin? I do. Actually. I gotta wipe my nose. But with this fight, now clearly the goal with this Chinese China card, whatever, cancel me. Clearly their goal is to show off all of these talents around Asia. And I think Giga should get it done here. 0-2, did well on the road to the UFC. Is also a minus 2,000 favorite, which, again, I'm not sure about that odd, but I do see him winning this. This should be a comfortable win. I can see him getting a submission within the first 2 rounds. I'll go with the second round to be safe. But I just fucking predictions, dude. Like, I don't need to be safe. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm going with Yusa. I think he gets it done here, and the home crowd here should play a factor for many of these fighters. Then oh, here we go. Here we go. Now, Mikel Pereira, again, versus Kyle Dawkins. Michel Pereira is a very, very interesting fighter. Now, he is really good. You look at those 3 wins right there. First round guillotine over Ihor Peteria. First round rear naked choke over Mikhail Ogzaychik. And first round TKO over Andrei Petrovsky. These are a lot of really good wins. And in the Anthony Hernandez fight, although he lost in the 5th round, he looked really good and he was winning a lot of that fight up until that 5th round. But in the Magomedov fight, he really didn't impress me. And I want to be fair to him. He's 31. He's going to have maybe another 4 to 6, 7 years in the sport. Um, I don't know with Miguel Pereira. I'm not going with Chris or Kyle Dawkins. It's just no. I don't care that he got a first round finish on CFFC. We all know what happens with regional fighters, and the only thing that I see Pereira really really struggling with is hesitancy. And that's the one thing that looking back at the Hernandez fight, he didn't take the shots he should have. He had a lot of moments in that fight to really take over that fight, but he just broke at the end of that fifth round. Hernandez got it done. But you look at where Hernandez is now going into a number one contenders fight, or at least potentially a number one contenders fight. Um but I see him getting it done here. I see him rebounding. I really like his style. Stand up fighter. We need more entertaining fighters in the sport. And yeah, I see him getting it done. Maybe, having a hot first and second. And then, am I really going to give Dawkins? I'll give Dawkins the round. Maybe the third or second. I just think in this fight, Pereira, when he's confident on the feet, he's one of the best out there, and you gotta put a lot of weight on that Hernandez loss. Um, but you can also go the other way around and say, well, he was winning that fight, and then he completely fell apart. But I think he should get it done here again. The UFC level is on a completely different level than any of these regional promotions. How many people do we need to? How many fighters? Chase Hilfer, um, Buddy there that Rayone Barcelos beat Payne Talbot, right? Where these are talent, these are skilled fighters, but they are nowhere near the UFC level. And the difference from being a guy outside of the rankings in the UFC and a regional fighter should usually mean you run circles. But hey, you gotta give it to the Dawkins, man. He did go on a run. He did make his way back here, and he has a shot. But we'll see. We then have Rongzhu versus Austin Hubbard. This this to me is an interesting fight. Now Rongzhu, he beat Cody Steele in his last fight, got a performance bonus for the fight. Very entertaining. He lost to Chris Padilla by round two doctor stoppage. I forgot exactly what injury he got in that fight again. That was, 2024. Um, but did well on the road to the UFC. A third rounder in Nathan Choke. KO Chung Hong. And got a unanimous decision. Now, Hubbard lost to Markel Maderos in his last fight by split decision. Looked really good. Had a split decision loss against Alexander Hernandez. Um, Again, that's a loss that's going to age really well. He beat Mikhail Big Black and got submitted with Kolobah. Coming off of the Ultimate Fighter 31. Um, I'm gonna go with Roundu here. I'm gonna stick with my pick. 25. Cody Steele. That win was a rebound win. That one did at least put a little bit of hype back in Roundu's court. But like, he nearly has everything. I think he's better on the feet. I think he has, he's really showing he is a fun striker. And when it goes to the ground, very good. Um, I'm expecting a good performance out of Rongju. I think that, again, with this card being where it is, this is another guy that I think can really benefit off of a major performance here. Then we move on to Warner Kavanaugh versus Charles Johnson. Now, this. See, I flip flop back and forth because Kavanaugh 9-0, 2-0 in the UFC, Felipe dos Santos, Jose Ocha, but those were some very, very close fights. He got the first on left hook over Buddy there on the Contender Series, who was undefeated. But, you know, had a decent body of work in Cage Warriors. Although I see a lot of talent in Warner Kavanaugh, this is one where I look at it, and maybe it's purely off of the Josh Van fight, but I can see Johnson picking him apart at range. I can see him finding the the big shot there. But I'm going to go with Kavanaugh by decision. Very well rounded. His issue is how close his fights are. And I think that has to do with his fight style. And the other thing you have to think about is if Jourdain can find the range, I think he can pick Warner Kavanaugh apart. He was able to get Joshua Van out there, who's now fighting for the title whenever that fight is announced. Um, but I think he should win it. I think that um he'll get it done by decision. It's I really want to see him show, that he can put some distance in some fight and make it more decisive that yeah, I am the better fighter in this fight. Really good fighter. It's just that when you come into the UFC, we want to see you, excel. And it goes with every fighter, right? But like for an undefeated guy, very close fights. And Jourdain, I have a bad feeling about Jourdain. I really do think that Jourdain can find the shot, or even it could be a factor of Loner Kavanaugh looks phenomenal the first two rounds, but Jourdain is able to put in the damage throughout the fight and, finish in the third round the same way he did with Joshua Van. But we will have to see. A lot of hype around this guy. Then we move to Mahashati Hasir versus Gage Young. Now, Hasir is coming off of a loss to Nicholas Moda back in November. He beat Gabriel Benitez before that was split decision. Got KO'd by Vasyl Borshev. Lost to Ralph Garcia. Beat Steve Garcia. Well, again, Steve Garcia is on a phenomenal run, and he knocked him out in the first round. I know he didn't get. Did he? No. He was on a fight finishing streak. No, he didn't get the finish in his last fight. Or was a decision? I think. Um, but we move into Gage Young, who had his official debut against Evan Edler. It lost by unanimous decision. I gotta be honest, I forgot most of the fight. I mean, Gage Young versus Evan Elder just isn't one of those fights that I think about on a regular basis. But he did have a good knockout over Eric Grant. Um, Quillen Killed beat him on the Contender Series. Uh, I believe Two Killed grappled him. Again, I can't remember most of these fights. And then before that, he killed Josh Cooley and Braxton Everett over in FAC. Don't really know much about that organization, if I'm being completely honest. I think he should take it by decision. I'll go with a lot of decisions because I just have a feeling this is. I don't know. I can't put too much on regional wins because how many guys have we seen now, even from, credible promotions, Bellator, where, how many guys leave the UFC, they go on a big run, some of them are able to get it back, but you immediately see it when they come back. Okay, the UFC is at a different level. Even though it's boring as shit right now, and everybody is just, a pressure wrestling Percy. I have no other way to say it. I was trying to think of something funnier, but whatever. Um, I think Mahashati gets it done here. Then we move in to Tyler Lake. Why? Naraji taking on Kiefer Crosby. Kiefer Crosby, a part of, um, I cannot believe I'm blanking. Calvin Camp, Connor's coach. But Naraji 11-1, three first round finishes in a row. Left hook in his last fight against a guy who's 1-1. He submitted an 8-3 guy. TKO'd a 13-7 guy, 13-4. All finishers in his last five fights. Kiefer Crosby, though, he got submitted by Sam Patterson in his last fight by arm triangle choke in the first round. He also got submitted by Kevin Doucette with a rear naked choke in the first round. He KO'd Alex Oliveira over at Rise FC and had another first round knockout followed by a first round submission loss. Submission loss. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if I said that properly. Can you fuck off? Um, I don't know if you guys can see that. Weird. I don't know if you guys can see that fly, but no. Whatever. I'll go with Naraji to get it done on by third down TKO. Crosby is decent on the feet. But I think Naraji will outperform him. I think that he'll find the bigger moments in the clinch. I think he'll be able to find a way to get Crosby down. And apart from that, there's not really anything that I look at this fight with Crosby where there's a true X factor. Um, I just think Naraji has more ways to win this fight, and I don't see Crosby really being a big threat. If Naraji is able to control him. But yeah. Now we have Sumaderji versus Kevin Bourjai. This is quite the interesting one. Now, Sumaderji, this guy had a lot of hype coming in. And this is one of the main reasons that I have an issue with a lot of these guys. Not personally, but really hot on the regional scene. Really big name in the Asian market. He comes in, beats Zuru Adashev, but he gets submitted by match now. Submitted by Tim Elliott, which that loss is aging phenomenally. Yeah, oh my god, that Tim Elliott win was insane, man. I honestly said in my predictions, like, Asakura needed a breakout performance, but a guy like Tim Elliott, who has been around, fought Demetrius Johnson back in the day, he's very crafty, man. And, we see a lot of veterans like that where, they stick around, you don't really think about them, but then they show you really quick, okay, there is value to being in the UFC for, I believe, he's got to be in the UFC for over a decade. Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Then Borjar, he beat Ronaldo Rodriguez by unanimous decision. Really good win. Snapped a two-fight losing streak where he got TKO'd by Alessandro Costa. Lost to Joshua Van, who is fighting for the flyweight title. And dude, again, dude, that Royval fight was fucking insane. It really was, man. Like, I wanted Van to win it just because I love the story of like a young guy looking that good. Like, he's a 24-year-old fighting the way that most like 35-year-olds, when they're really finding out, okay, this is my skill set, this works. You know, again, the biggest thing that I find with Joshua Van is he works the body, which is a very underrated part in fighting. I see across the board from a lot of fighters where they don't focus the body work. Like, look at what, Stipe did with it, right, in the second DC fight, where it's not something you think about, but especially when you're going in there against a grappler, getting those kicks to the body, mixing up the body, that helps you slow down the takedowns. I'm completely off topic though, but back to this fight. I think Sumaderji wins this one. He looked good against Mitchell Posa. And Barrage, Barrage. I hate trying to remember these names, man. He's tough to finish, and I just say going to a close decision. Sumaderji, I don't really have a lot of faith in. I gotta be honest. I see the talent there. But it's one thing to be talented. It's another thing to make it at the UFC level, which I've said about nearly every fight. I get it. But again, it's just what we've been seeing the past 2 Saturdays. Then we finally make it to the big boys. Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Definitely a very interesting fight. Now, Pavlovich beat Jairzinho Rosenstrike in a very boring fight. I can't. I need to say this. Majority of the community went off on that fight. I didn't think it was that bad. Rosenstrike got cut after that, but the thing with the thing that I didn't get about Rosenstrike getting cut is like, who the fuck do you have in the heavyweight division? Rosenstrike was at least a name, but he got the win. He rebounded from the Volkov loss, which to me, the Volkov loss, one, it was just Volkov outworking him. Two, it was the anxiety from the Tom Aspinall loss at UFC 295 when Tom Aspinall became the interim champion nearly 2 years ago. He killed Curtis Blades in the first round, tied to Lavasa, and he was on that massive 5 fight knockout streak before running into Tom Aspinall. He was the guy that we were saying, let's see John Jones face Pat Wolbich. Obviously, that's how Aspinall got in the conversation. Then you move into Waldo Cortez Costa, who had a grappling match against Sergey Spivak, who also is really good on the ground, but he looked good in that fight. The problem that Cortez Acosta has is the power. You look at these other fights. Yeah, you Caleb Span goes to a unanimous decision win against Rob to Spain. You guys remember Rob to Spain? He then went to a unanimous decision against Andrei Arlovsky. This is what, like a 42, 3-year-old Andrei Arlovsky. And then you have the first round KO over Lucas Brzezinski. Um, I could see this fight literally being 5 different things. Now, I'm kind of flip flopping right now, but I'm going to stick with my original pick. Now, if Pavlovich is moving towards more of a wrestling approach, this is the fight that I think really will show if he can actually manage, you know, this transition. And, like, let's be honest, if Pavlovich can develop a solid grappling game, this year's a nightmare matchup for anyone. Obviously it was Tom Aspinall, but it's heavyweight. One shot can end it all. But I'm going to go with Pavlovich to get it done by second round TKO. You should not knock out Acosta. Acosta, good striker, oddly enough, has no power in it. Heavyweight. I just see a lot of his punches when they land on his opponents. If it's not a good time shot or him just hammering down 30 shots in a row, which I do not think he's going to be able to do against a Sergey Pavlovich. This is really Pavlovich. It's his fight to lose. That's the way I see it. If he's going to head towards a more grappling style approach to fighting, and if we know he has that power, Pavlovich is still one of the best heavyweights. He only lost to the now undisputed champion and Volkov. But you gotta question a lot with Sergey Pavlovich and the mentality he has now. And I really hope he can return back to what he was because holy shit, man. Pavlovich was a monster before Tom Aswell. Then we finally make it to our co-main event of the evening. A very interesting one between Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. This is going to be a very, very high level grappling match, or we will not see any grappling at all. That's the two ways these fights work. You look at Ortega, he lost to Diego Lopez at UFC 306. Diego Lopez fought for the title in April, lost, knocked Volkanovski down. Did look good, just, Volkanovski, greatest featherweight of all time. He submitted Yair Rodriguez, Mr. Unlimited title shots himself. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, apparently they're not really going to give it to Yair now for UFC and OJ. Um, because everybody saw right through it and saw the fact that you only gave it to him off of a shitty win against Pitbull purely because he's Mexican. Um, he had the loss to Volkanovski where he had Volk in that, I believe it was a guillotine for like, I don't even know how long. One of the most iconic Volkanovski moments of him sitting there and toughing out. It felt like at least a good minute and a half of that choke. Then we go to Aljamain Sterling, who is a new arrival to the not bantamweight division, featherweight division, and he debuted against Calvin Kattar, looked phenomenal against Calvin Kattar, fought most Evloev. I thought he did really good against Evloev. We know he got knocked out by Sean O'Malley. He beat Cejudo by split decision, and he KO'd TJ Dillashaw. Now, Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili are the greatest comedy duo to grace modern MMA. If you guys do not watch the fucking shit that these two do together, like my favorite one was they did a skit where like Merab went to lay in the bed and like basically, the blanket's hot, and then Sterling ends up popping out. I laughed my ass off about that. Like, genuinely, those two are fucking hilarious. Um, but, I love Ortega, dude. Ortega in his prime was incredible. I thought he was gonna move up to 155. If I'm really being honest here, but now that, Max and Ilya are up there, it doesn't really make that much sense. I wanted to see Ortega fight Gaethje. I kind of feel like him and Gaethje kind of are the same thing in different divisions. When you really look at what they do inside the cage. Now, obviously, Gaethje brings one knockouts, but like, I get that same feeling from the two of them. That's a fight that I did want. I thought that he was moving up, but I'm gonna go with Aljamain Sterling here. He's never been sub, which you really have to look at. Again, he just went in there against Mofsar. Higher output, I feel. He did really good, like I said, against Mofsar. And I honestly think that Sterling has more left than Ortega, and I think that's what it really comes down to. I actually, talked about this with my dad earlier, where we were talking about this fight and, how much of a beast Ortega was. Volkanovski fight, all these other fights that are leading up to the Max Holloway fight. I don't see that same energy, and to me, I think Aljamain Sterling is one of the greatest grapplers to ever grace um the UFC. I think he's very underrated. And I'm saying this about a guy who is in the GOAT conversation of the bantamweight division. Um, I think he gets it done though. This is a big moment for him to rebound again off the Mobstar loss. Mobstar should be fighting for the title, but doesn't want to fight, according to Volkanovski. Um, but I feel like with this win, he really puts his name in there. I would stick for like a title eliminator, like a big fight that will put him in a, number one contenders fight. Um, and this would be a really good legacy win for Aljamain Sterling to add within the featherweight division. He already beat Kelvin Cater, which is an notable win. This one I feel, although it doesn't mean as much as it would have a few years ago, it's a big win for Chimaev. And then we get to our main event, Johnny Walker versus Mingyang Zhang. Oof, not really a good one. Now, for those of you that don't really know anything about Mingyang Zhang, you know how Johnny Walker is, and anybody with an IQ higher than 10 will look at this and be like, alright, somebody with literally 5 knockouts in a row. Well, I think he has more than that. I don't know how many in a row he has. I think like it's like what 16 out of his 19 wins. Somebody's gonna get knocked out here. That's the way around it. But you look at Walker, you look at the last 5 fights, 2023, KO Paul Craig, he beat Anthony Smith, notable names, but again, those names are nowhere near. Anthony Smith is retired. Paul Craig, I honestly think should retire. Um, but yeah, the no contest against Magomed Ankalaev, which then, he got knocked out in that rematch. Like, I'm trying to make it interesting here. Mingyang Zhang is most likely going to run through Johnny Walker. I'm going with the first round to go. Second round at the latest. We already know Walker's ceiling. Back when it's the next coming of John Jones. Cedric Dumas is more like John Jones, if we're being really honest here. Um, but this guy has an incredibly high ceiling. They brought this fight to China specifically for him. They know the level of star that this guy really could be. And when you're knocking out guys in the first round, you're gonna move up fast. And for a guy like Mingyang Zhang, right? And this is the issue that I have with this matchmaking, and I know everybody does. Where what is the point where you look at an individual performance and what somebody does, you know, continuously? Because he's done both of those, and if he does it again, You gotta think a guy with this many first round knockouts, you're gonna shoot him out towards the title. We all know that this is the market that they want to get behind. Zhang Weili was a major champion and broke them into the market. And it's 205 man, which we'll have to see what happens with Pereira and Goliath. I really think whether Pereira wins that belt or not, Uncle Ive is probably just gonna pick it back up. But this guy is an issue. This guy again could be a major star in this region. In a very interesting 205-pound division, I really think he'll have no struggle, I feel, making it to the top five. Like, I genuinely believe that. Whether he wins the belt or not really depends on what goes on in this division and how long Magomed Ankalaev can hold on to that belt. Um, but yeah, honestly, I wish I had more to say. Like, this is a glass chin walking into a cannon, which Mingyang Zhang has been knocked out, I believe, 3 times in his career, but they all were all very early on. And like I'm saying, man, it's when you see Johnny Walker going up against a guy with 5 first round knockouts in a row, you already know what's gonna happen. But I just realized I've had majority of the um, records hidden. Oh wow. But he would move to 20-6 after this. The they're gonna push the shit out of this guy. We all know. We all know. Like I said, this is a market that they have been trying their absolute ass off, bringing in Kairos Sakura, which I think their plan was, is if Kairos Sakura could beat Alexander Pantoja, he 100% would have defended this title. This would have been a pay-per-view card. I really do feel. Um, but yeah, that's what I got. Maybe Johnny Walker proves us wrong. This is a really good card. Now, the time zone, right? Now, I know for European fans, this was a better card for them. But for us North American, you know, North American fans, this is at 5 in the morning. I go to bed at 5 in the morning. And although this card is absolutely stacked, like compared to the other cards we're gotten, am I really going to either wake up at 5 a.m. after probably going to bed at 3 a.m. or am I going to try once again to tough it up? The problem is, the last time with the China, like the last China card, I stayed up for the prelims and I couldn't even watch the main card because they weren't. I couldn't watch them on Fight Pass for some reason, and they didn't have it on Sportsnet Plus. But I don't know. Yeah, regardless, I'll be able to watch it. The card will be done by like 11, 12 o'clock anyway. So you know, but should be a fun card. Let me know in the comments down below. Who are you picking in the main event? What fights stand out to you the most? And yeah, it's this is a good card. The question is, are people really going to tune into a China card? And I know the UFC has gotten really good lately, International Fight Week, UFC 319, even though the main event was boring as shit. Really good card, but let me know what you think down below. That's what I got. Thank you for watching. Um, Once again, your support rate is incredible. You guys have been showing me so much love, and it really means a lot. But that's what I got. Later.